I will be talking about improving your studio's production, and let's first define improvement. Excuse me one second. This one is for passing the slide, right? Sure. Yeah, thank you. For improvement, I mean either improving your quality or your quantity, preferably both of them, but never compromising one for the other. So basically, this is the overview of the presentation. What's different for hyper-casual and other industries, repetitiveness and its effects on the business, the mindset and approach that you should have to improve your studio, the processes and tools, the minor habits and micro-processes and how to improve them, the culture and the environment, bad and good habits, and understanding the trade-off of improvement, and how to apply change throughout your organization, tracking the success of your practices, and you will find the contact information for me, and then we will have a Q&A session. First of all, the difference of hyper-casual is that it's not making just one game, it's making a system to make hundreds of games. Why? Most factors leading to success are not pretty obvious, so you must be trying new ideas, generate new hypotheses on what would be fun, what people would perceive as fun. Then you would test them and see maybe they are fun, and if they are profitable, you continue. The target market is huge. You are targeting billions of people, and the industry is disruptive. That means that with technology and consumer behaviors, that the industry and its expectations are continuously changing, so you need to be testing a lot of ideas continuously to understand the change and shift your focus towards that. The market is very dynamic, as well as the player expectations, and product life cycle is not very long, so even if you have one profitable hit game, you will need another and another. So what you need is a mechanism which allows you to generate hypotheses which may resonate with the target audience, test them by turning into prototypes, turn those prototypes into minimum viable products if the results are promising, and convert those into full games in time and scale those games globally. Most importantly, you need that mechanism to be sustainable, scalable, and efficient. And that is your studio. So to break down the industry a little bit, what happens is that ideation, it's compromises of two parts, development and publishing. We will be focusing on the development side of things, but since this is a general approach on how to improve every business that is repetitive, publishers may find some useful tips as well. For the publisher side, there is testing, UA, and monetization, and of course the global launch process. But for the developers, it's mostly the ideation and execution. And to break down that, it's generating a hypothesis, designing the game from that idea, prototyping, iterating it for better results, scaling it, and providing live operations. This means that you will not be making one game icon, but hundreds of icons. You will not integrate the Facebook SDK once, but hundreds of times. You will not be attending one game design brief meeting, but hundreds of meetings. In short, you will be doing what you have been doing for a lot of time in a repetitive setting. So if you are losing time on one of your projects, and if you continue to do that on every upcoming project, you will be losing hundreds of hours. So the mindset and to approach on how to improve your studio is that a good hyper-casual studio constantly generates new hypotheses, tests those with good execution in time, and if the results are promising, it iterates and scales those hypotheses to global hits without disrupting its workflow. So you will be doing what you are doing over and again. If you are successful, your studio will be repeating the whole process entirely. If not, you will be repeating parts of the process until you begin repeating the whole process. While doing so, you need to also maintain your workflow as well. So what you do now, your habits, your process, and tools will affect your entire workflow. Those define who you are and how you work. And one small change can have a major impact on your workflow because this change will apply not only to one project, but many projects. So what should you be thinking is that you should approach your work as a process, not only as one project. Improve how you work in one project, and it will affect your entire process. Try to find areas for improvement, be creative, try and retrospectively analyze the results. This workflow, you made sure your team is ready for change, you have played the devil and skeptically analyzed your new offering, you are sure this change will bring improvement to your studio. Now it's time to consider the costs and potential earnings. Analyze the change in this perspectives, financial costs, earnings, and your budget, how much time will you use, and when this practice will break even, then start to save you time. How will it affect the team and the culture? Considering those, if you think it will be more beneficial to make that change, it is time to consider one last thing, the opportunity cost. What can we do instead of spending that time or money on that change? Maybe we can design 10 more games, maybe we can maybe we can grow our team, maybe we can focus on an important project at hand. Carefully analyze the opportunity cost of doing that change, the cost of doing something instead of doing another thing. Keep in mind your goals, your financial structure, and your short-term obligations before finalizing your decision. And then how to apply those changes that you want to apply. Congratulations, you have had breakdown your workflow, analyzed it, find points to improve, decided what to do, considered its cost, opportunity cost, and decided now it's time to apply that change, but how? First, the planning phase, you must have a plan to apply the change from when this new change will take effect, who will do what, determine the stakeholders for the change, and create a roadmap for the team to implement the change. Then the most important part is communication and alignment. Include the stakeholders in the process and brainstorm with them on the problem, solution, and your plan. Don't hesitate to make changes with the feedback of your team. Most important thing is to include everyone who will be affected from that change in the beginning. Align your team's goals with the goal you want to achieve with that change. Communicate why, how, what, when, and who with your team. Make sure everyone understands what to do, when to do, and why to do it. The why question is the most important. Try to have a desirable answer for the studio and for the team. Now it's time to execute the change. Clear goal setting is key. Your goal must be reachable and solid. And now comes the tracking success part. You have made your change. Now you are trying to analyze that if you did good or bad. Now you are going to take a look at some metrics. Is a CPI good enough metric to observe that kind of improvement? Or do we need internal KPIs? Yes, you need internal KPIs. Metrics are CPI like statistical extrapolation methods, results that are gathered by statistical extrapolation methods. They are good for determining if a game is going to be profitable or not, given that there is an error margin, but it's not great to analyze all your games. Why? Because even if they were deterministic, they are time dependent. In 2018, a good CPI was 10 cents. In 2022, it's 40. You would still need a benchmark to compare, which many studios don't have. Even if you had an industry benchmark, you would still need to know the size of the population, the sample size plotted on time graph, and find the correct number of sample group you need to evaluate together. If you are going to take a look at the metrics, marketability metrics of your games and evaluate if you did good or bad, and even that, what would you end up would be grouping time-dependent statistical data which have error margins and compare them again using another statistical method, given that you already have the correct amount to compare. Metrics are like CPI perfect for making sense of the market and determining the future of the project, at least somewhat analytically. However, tracking success of your studio's output, they are simply not enough and can be misleading. For about internal KPIs, try to find KPIs to track the success of your new practices. For example, did your monthly prototype capacity increase with the same amount of resources? Did the number of approvals from your game pitches increase? Again, with the same number of resources. Did the number of overtime hours decrease? This might be your goal. Are you spending less time switching between your game design document and your project management tool? Did the number of features not left out decrease? And etc. So the goal is here to do, the mindset here is to, you are making a change to fix a problem or improve something. So you need to determine some key performance indicators specific to that problem. Of course, you need to track those and analyze later in time. I would like to mention on a side note, if you can benchmark your previous games or can compare your CPI to similar studios with the correct number of games considering the timing of tests, it can provide meaningful and valuable results. Actually, this is the end. Here is my contact information. You can scan the QR code or email me from my email address. Next, I will have some Q&A if you have any questions.
Thank you. I would like to ask that how do you decide to dissolve a game from your studio? Like which thought process is being processed? Like which KPIs or the metrics are being evaluated in you to dissolving a game from your studio? After that, like one thing went bad and you need to dissolve one game from your portfolio. How do you decide on that?
Actually, I didn't get the question. Excuse me, can you repeat that?
Sure. I was wondering that, for example, in a game studio, there might be like 10 or 15 many games that may perform a very good or bad performances, like in the KPIs that you mentioned. But one of them maybe go wrong after a year, maybe after the testing or the iteration process. So how do you decide to dissolve that game from your studio if the things are going bad for that? What is the metrics for you to decide upon that?
Actually, for deciding a project's dissolvement or keeping it alive, its CPI and other retention, day one retention metrics are good. As I said, they are good for evaluating one project, but they are not enough to evaluate your all throughout efficiency in your entire workflow. So what I mean by internal KPIs is that internal KPIs is good to internally track and analyze your improvement. The marketability or the product KPIs that come from people are good to analyze the game and the product rather than your entire workflow.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.